Okay. Hello, Miss Hankins. Thank you for meeting with me today. I do want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded for my class. So we're meeting for the first lesson plan. Um, well, the first lesson actually that you observed going off of the lesson plan that I sent to you. So hopefully we can kind of stay within that because I know we have a couple of videos that we have to go over. Well, not videos to go over, but videos that we have to make from each one of the lessons that you observed. So this one is for the lesson on um, the alphabet, the uppercase and lowercase alphabet and the sounds for Patricia. Will we refer to our student as Patricia? So this is little Patricia in sixth grade. So based on the observation and then the rubric that I sent you from the school, where would you like to start?
We can definitely start at the top with the use of instructional time.
Okay.
Um, First off, I enjoyed the flow of the class, the way I think everything was paced, allowed for a lot of engagement. It
Okay.
wasn't a lot of idle time for her to lose focus during the lesson, and it just kind of rolled from one activity to the next. So that definitely kept her interest.
Okay.
I definitely think that was a high point. Um, and then as far as trying to pull out additional information from her just to see what she knows, your questioning was really good, because instead of her just saying yes or no, she had to provide more than just that for a response. So I thought that was really positive, because I know that Patricia doesn't talk a lot. That's something that we've talked about previously with her. And so getting more words out of her is always a plus. So I don't know if you intentionally did that in the lesson, but
I did
okay.
in her when I so part of the first activities, like assigned for um kind of building out from the first assignment to this one, when I went back and I read her psychological, like the first one that was completed, because she's had two since then. That was one of the things that was actually noted in the psychological, was that early on, her mom as well as her teachers, her preschool teachers, saw her kind of withdraw from interacting with her peers, and kind of like going into herself and not having conversations with them. And then slowly she began like to talk to her friends a little more, but she was still withdrawn from the teachers, teacher assistants, and more or less any adults who was trying to interact with her. So I saw, with that being in the psychological, I kind of wanted to make sure that I tried to create the lesson in such a way where there was a dialogue, still on her level, but still just a dialogue, and hopefully that she wouldn't, become withdrawn at any point or shut down and not, communicate with me.
Right. So again, I think that's really good. And like I said before, your pacing was good. You were very patient with her, and then asking her, even if she said initially, this is the letter B, going back and asking, comparing two different letters, and then you have to tell me why this is not this letter, for her to so that she fully knows this is the letter B. I don't care what other letter you put here. Those are good things. You're presenting it in multiple ways, and so again, that's getting her to talk a lot more, which we know is one of her IEP goals.
Yes.
Um, definitely she was actively engaged. I didn't see any time where she wanted to do something else may have caught her attention, even with, me being present did not, make her lose focus. So I think she was interested in the activities. I was interested in the activities. Your energy, was
Thank
really
you.
high. And so that I think also, encourages the positive engagement. Even some of the times when she wanted to be silly, you immediately redirected her and she got right back into it. Like it was not, a couple of minutes of silly time during that. And I know she tends to kind of do that to avoid answering, or sometimes she just doesn't know the answer. But yeah.
Last school year when I was working with the CLU students, she would actually be in the room sometime because the interventionists share that room.
Oh, wow.
For the sake of her, to get her to interact with her peers, I let her sit at the table with us. And when I would tell them to look stuff up for Destination Imagination, she pulled out her laptop and she tried to do the same things that they were doing. I think that little bit of time, even though it was only, just that one school year, I think it was long enough to kind of build a rapport with her. So she does, if I may say so myself, I think she responds well, even when I am redirecting her, just because there was already the little background time that we had together. And so she views me as, oh yeah, that's the teacher with the other kids, because she'd be in the room. And she knows the difference between like her and the other students. But when I would let her just sit at the table and kind of, feel like she was a part of the group, even though she wasn't on their level, she still felt a part of the group. And that meant a lot to her. So I've been invited to her birthday parties. So
okay, yes. Okay,
yeah, I've been invited to the birthday party. So I moved up the ladder.
Okay, so I did note other things on your rubric. I made notes, and so I do want you to pay attention to those things. I do have a few questions. Do you feel like you successfully achieved your lesson objective?
I think that I did, because I wanted this lesson to kind of be like an intro lesson into that second lesson, which was more on focusing on the sight words, because I would like to try to help build her capacity within the area of reading. I know that she's not a strong reader, and I know for a fact that the last couple of years she's been struggling with even per se like writing her own name. It's taken a lot just to be able to get her to write her first and last name. So that was one reason why we've been working with the alphabet. She's been working with it for quite a while, but I made like part of the lesson very specific to just the letters of her name, trying to focus on leading her into sight words to try to build a capacity for reading, because she still gets to read aloud. And I know that when you ask her to read, she shuts down.
Okay. So as far as your data to support, how this lesson went, what was the outcome? Like what was your feedback or your assessment for her to know whether she did well or not?
Okay, so the exit ticket was like at the end, where I allowed her to pick a letter. And so she'd have to pick the letter, say the name of the letter, give me something that she thinks, a word that starts with that letter and what sound that letter makes. So for me, that was a part of me assessing whether or not she knew, the specific letter. I guess I could, if I wanted to extend it, I guess I could have gone to whether or not it was capital, like uppercase or lowercase, maybe to extend it. So that would be a way of maybe extending it. But I just allowed her to pick the letter, and she had to pick letters from her name. So pick the letter, say the name of the letter, make the sound that the letter makes, and then tell me something that, a word that starts with that letter. So that was my I guess you could say, way of measuring whether or not she had reached mastery, was approaching mastery, or remediation. She did fairly well for 2 or 3 of the letters, but I think that part of it may have just been, we can only do, I would say maybe 3 or 4 at a time, versus even though it was I wanted to go across her whole name. It just may have been too many letters at one time. She did really well, say 3, and then she just kind of got either confused or she had just reached her frustration level and she began to shut down.
And that can be kind of tricky with her because we know that she learns at a, slower pace. But just like you said, you could have done more between the lowercase and the uppercase. And it simply, I'm sure it was a matter of the time because she took so long responding. And so I would push you even further for the next lesson to not back down so much on what you're giving her, what you're asking her to do, just more so focus on let's add more things let's add additional things into what you're doing so that you can reach the uppercase, or the difference between the lowercase, or matching the uppercase with lowercase, whatever, the skill is going to be for that day. But like I said, I just kind of keep pushing her on that, possibly for the next one. I think it just may have been because she works at a slower pace.
Okay.
So next steps, what are your next steps?
Well, my next steps, of course, with the second lesson is to try to build off of this lesson with just identifying the letters to move into the sight words. Because the ultimate goal is to, as I was saying before, just kind of try to build the capacity for her within the reading simple words. And then if she can recognize the words, then putting those simple words together to form sentences.
Okay.
So I guess next steps would definitely be the sight words.
Okay. And so my last question is going to be, of course, as you reflect on this observation, this lesson, what are some things that you're learning about your teaching?
I would say definitely building a whole complete lesson is a lot more challenging than I have given teachers credit for in the past. Because we usually, as SPED teachers or interventionists, we kind of go in sometimes and the lesson's already there, and then we're just tweaking what someone else has already done. So actually this whole thing of testing, building out a test and then writing an IEP and then building a lesson around those things. One, just making sure that I don't overwhelm the student because you see the many deficits, and just being okay with taking out a piece of it and focusing on just a piece. Because I was really taken aback initially when I created the assessment. I created the assessment strictly off of her psychological. And it was like, oh my goodness, she's in 6th grade and she can't read. But then knowing her, and then when I went back in to work with her, again, it was like, you need to break this all the way down to just the alphabet. Like you gotta be able to read and to do that, but you got to take this all the way back for her to just letter sounds, and then maybe move to letter blends. So for me, being able to take a step back and really focus on one specific skill at a time and understand that although I want her to master all of them, just focus on one at a time, because that's what she can do and that's what she needs. She needs me to be a little more patient and kind of learn to work at her pace versus just wanting to throw everything at her all at once.
Okay. Well, I look forward to the next observation. Again, I made some additional notes on your rubric, and just reach out if you need any support before your lesson or after. Well, we'll see each other after.
Okay. Thank you so.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm trying to find the stop button for the recording.